I will keep admitting as they join, but I think we're good to go, Mark.
All right, thanks, Dawn, and welcome everyone to our November webcast on Think Like a Chief Revenue Officer. My name is Mark Shamley, and where am I joining from? I'm joining from Orlando, Florida, and so it's great to see everyone once again. So we're gonna get things moving, if I can get my slides going. So our agenda is as follows. We'll have some housekeeping items we cover, just to make sure everybody has a terrific webcast experience, as usual. We'll have some opening remarks, and then we're going to jump into this conversation. So looking forward to our special guest speaker. And it's going to be different. It's going to be kind of more of a back and forth moderated discussion, if you will. So I'm looking forward to jumping into that quickly. So, but we do have some housekeeping things to cover with you first. So know that the recording this session is recorded, as always, and it will be posted on the World Federation website to be accessed on demand whenever you would like to access it in the future. And I encourage you to share it with your colleagues, especially those who were not able to join us today. And Dawn will send that link to you at the conclusion of our webcast. I encourage everyone to utilize the mute feature until we get into the Q&A. That will cut on the background noise. But if, again, you have questions, please utilize the chat, similar to how you're using it to share where you're calling from. You could use the chat throughout the session if you have questions, and we will make sure we get to everyone's questions. And then lastly, we encourage you, if you are on a computer, that you use the view or speaker view for the session. It just creates a much better experience where you have the opportunity to see the speakers who are presenting, as well as some of your colleagues and the content. So there you go. Those are the housekeeping items. Again, my name is Mark Shamley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the World Federation of Youth Clubs, and I serve double duty as your host for our webcast sessions. So that's the other title I have, apparently. So just as a reminder, we like to orient ourselves around what we do and why we do it. Okay, so what we do, our mission is to develop, advance, and enhance youth organizations that are providing a positive environment and a safe place for young people all around the world. That is what we do. And our purpose is similar in terms of creating and developing and strengthening your organizations so that you can provide a safe and nurturing space, right? So our investment is in you and your youth development professionals that work for your organizations and your organizations themselves. That is why the World Federation of Youth Clubs exists. Our value proposition is oriented around what I call 3 swim lanes. That first swim lane, if you will, is around connecting, convening and connecting, guide and consulting, where we have, I just need to move some things here, where you get that one-on-one consultation from Jose and Glenn and Tim. That's a big part of the value proposition that we offer to all of our member affiliates. Along with that, you get the training and special programs, but also the mapping assessment, and that we appreciate all of the work you've done in providing the maps and the TAP that will follow with your assessments. The second area of focus for our value prop is around networking and learning. The annual conference is a sort of what I call our flagship initiative or program in that particular value proposition category. And then we have sister clubs and the collaboration network that we're building, continuing to build, about 13 collaborators right now. And then, of course, our webcasts in which we engage with you guys in a digital format. And then lastly, the promote and amplify area. Global recognition program, the Promise Awards, just took place in September. Many of you provided submissions for those awards, and we had a wonderful program in September, and we'll continue to do that next year. And of course, access to mini grants to help support with resources you need to advance and build capacity for some of your programs. And then lastly, how do we just simply amplify the work that you're doing through advocation and then also by strengthening youth development professionals as a whole. So at all of that being sort of the value prop, we remain one thing to be true to all of those things as we expand and build in those areas and develop more programming, is that we want to remain and will continue to remain a high touch organization. What does that mean for you? That means access. That means access to Dawn, access to Jose, access to Glenn, access to the entire team. So when you have questions or things that are challenging and puzzling for you, that you can pick up the phone or send an email, and someone at the World Federation on the other side will be responsive to your needs. So that's a big part of our culture and who we are as an organization. So resources, I touched on a few of these already. We talked about the consultation work that we do with you, that one-on-one, to help really address some of those really unique challenges and opportunities that you face. Our network of collaborators is growing. We added Big Brothers Big Sisters recently. That's a national mentoring program that's based here in the United States, but can provide a tremendous amount of resources and learning opportunities for you if you're considering mentoring programs where you operate in the world. Our annual conference is that, again, that flagship program where we convene all of us around the virtual table, if you will. That's going to happen in March of next year. Talked about the Promise Awards. Newsletter just went out or is going out soon, I think next week. The newsletter, and then we're going to continue to build on these resources. So again, the value prop just keeps growing and the programs keep growing, all designed to help you with your needs. So that's who we are. That's my quick commercial. So now I'm going to ask you guys to do a little work for me. And we have our standard chat check-in, right? So this is when take a little pause and ask you to use the chat feature and type in what's your favorite meal, okay? So, and we're gonna have, let's see, Dawn, you wanna read out a few of those as they come in?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm getting hungry. I can't decide what my favorite meal is. Sausage and mash with onion gravy. Sounds pretty good right now.
That sounds tasty. It sounds tasty.
Everything salty. That's a pretty good menu choice for sure.
Yeah.
Salads, spaghetti carbonara with cheesy garlic bread. Oh,
nice.
Who is cooking for us today? That'd be great. Baked chicken and potatoes.
I'm going to somebody's house for dinner, that's for sure.
Rice and chicken. President and I have the same answer, I think. Crab soup. I think the answer is it's making me hungry here. Seafood.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate. There's a method to our madness. We really want you to get used to using the feature, the chat feature for asking questions. So, but also these are great ideas for Thanksgiving dinner for myself. So really appreciate you sending those over to us. So, all right, we're going to get into our speaker. So I'm going to do a little bit of setup here, and then I'm going to hand it over to my dear friend, Bernard Boudreaux. So there are about 30% of nonprofits here in the US. Okay, so just context, here in the US, 30% of nonprofits fail after about 10 years, right? And one of the things that drive that failure rate is the lack of a strategic vision for those organizations, okay? And so, and this is in accordance to the from the National Center on Charitable Statistics. Okay, so this is sourced from that organization. So lack of strategic vision. But I also would say that if I sort of polled everyone on this call, what are the things that are sort of keeping them up at night? I would say resource development by far is one of the things that's keeping them up at night in terms of how do you find the dollars needed to support and advance your mission as an organization. So, we get that. And so this conversation is really designed to sort of bring that topic, that subject matter to the table for an open conversation, right? And we're super excited to bring Bernard Boudreaux to the World Federation of Youth Club membership to you guys to have this conversation. Many of you remember Bernard because he participated and spoke at our annual conference. And it was such a fantastic and highly rated session. Said, you know what, we're going to bring him back, right, for this webcast, right? So Bernard, we appreciate you saying yes. So I want to give you a proper introduction. Bernard is the Deputy Director of the New Strategies Program, which is a signature program within the business school at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. And in this role, Bernard focuses on direct engagement with corporate partners, as well as nonprofit leaders who are attending the New Strategies Program. He's also the founder and principal of Benefit? Am I saying that right? Benefit?
Beneficent.
Beneficent. You say it's better if you say it, Bernard. So.
Beneficent, but everybody say it with me. Beneficent. Everybody now. There's a song also. We'll do the
there
song
you
later.
Go. This is a boutique consulting firm that assists individuals, nonprofit organizations, and businesses to address social issues within our local communities and throughout action that achieves measurable results. Okay, remember, measurable results. So prior to joining Georgetown, Bernard worked at Target Corporation for over 30 years. 30 years, people. And he led the CSR team and had varying leadership positions in the corporate social responsibility area for the company. He's also served on the board of the Association of Corporate Citizenship Professionals, where I had an opportunity to get to know Bernard well when I worked for that organization. So with that, I'm going to hand over the mic and the podium to Bernard Boudreaux.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, all. Good to see all of your faces or see your names, because some of you all I can't see your face, but thank you, Mark. Thank you for that introduction. We're not going to sing Be Beneficent song this morning because we got too much stuff. So I'm in Oakland, California. I'm about an hour north of Jose Cruz, who I had the pleasure of working with earlier this year. And that's my story. So it's breakfast time, my time. I know it's dinner time in the UK and wherever the rest of y'all are. There's food to be had because we just talked about, somebody mentioned jollof rice and I'm like, okay, fix me a plate, please. But I'm good to go. So I think we're just going to chat this morning, right, Mark? What's this?
Yeah, we're going to chat. We're going to chat. But you know, I have a question. Let me just start with a question, okay? Right? Okay. If that's right. Okay, so in your work, Bernard, and New Strategies, you engage with thousands of nonprofit leaders, right?
Yep. Good ones and bad ones. Yep.
Good ones and bad ones, right? They come in, they go through what, a 3-day program. It's pretty intense. 4-day program. And that program is really centered around revenue generation, right? Like, how do you find the resources you need in your organization, right? What are the things that you're hearing from these folks, right? Because I'm sure there's going to be a connection and alignment with some of the things that we're hearing from our affiliates around the world. And before you answer that question, I'm just going to remind everyone, if you can, place your phone or your computer on mute if you're not speaking, because it just will reduce the background noise. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So Bernard, I'll hand it off to you.
So yeah, so earlier you're talking about the mission of organizations, and we only at New Strategies, we only focus on revenue, on money. That's all. So we don't focus on the structure of your organization, what the mission is of your organization, how you're trying to serve the community. We don't talk about any of that stuff. We only talk about money. And the reason we focus on revenue is no money, no mission.
No money, no mission.
So regardless of what your mission is, if you don't have the resources to support that mission, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. So at the end of the day, what revenue do you have? Where's it coming from? How are you getting it? And how you diversify it so it's not all coming from one place? If all of my revenue was coming from Mark Shamley, and then Mark Shamley fell and broke his leg and couldn't make any money, or Mark Shamley decided that he didn't love me anymore and wanted to go to somebody else, right, I'm stuck because all my revenue is in one basket. Tall basket, but one basket.
Tall basket.
So revenue generation and revenue diversification is what we focus on.
Gotcha. So we, in sort of preparing for this, but I do sort of talk to me a little bit about the 5 easy steps, right? Because what we want to try to do in this conversation is give folks some practical ideas, right? And how they can apply those ideas in their organizations. We have quite diversity, right? A bit of diversity in the organizations that are in the network of the World Federation of Youth Clubs. Some are large, some are small, some are rural, some are in urban areas, you know, some are in various stages of development in terms of early stage to more mature. So again, vast diversity within this organization, but there are some common things, right, that any organization, no matter your size or scope, footprint, that you need to be doing. And so talk to me a little bit about these 5 very easy steps and walk the sort of our folks through that.
Yep. So the 5 easy steps that I like to talk about aren't so easy that anybody anywhere can do them. I'll be totally honest. Whenever we say something's easy, usually it's like, well, okay, but it's not that easy. Nope. Life ain't that easy. Let's just be honest. But there are 5 steps that I strongly recommend all nonprofits consider, regardless of their size, regardless of their size. And the truth is, if you're a huge nonprofit organization and you got $20 million in revenue and you've got a staff of 100 people, there's a whole lot of options you have. Right. But if you're a staff of 1.5 or 1/2, because you really do it, you're leading the organization, but you're more of a volunteer and you got a volunteer team, you have limited resources and you can't do everything. You can't have your vice president of development go and schedule an appointment with the Bill Gates Foundation. That ain't gonna happen. So let's just, where everybody can access. So access. And this is highly dependent on this wonderful thing that we have right now called social media, which for the most part is free. Time is not free, but accessing the tool. So I'm going to give you 5 steps, and then I'm going to back up to each step to say what that means. Number 1 is storytelling. Tell your story. Number 2 is online donations. Number 3, social media, maximizing it. Number 4, repeat number 1. Tell more stories. And then number 5, do your research. And in that order. So let me start off with storytelling. Every nonprofit organization, non-government organization in general, needs to collect and document and photograph some compelling but brief stories that tell the general public, tell people how your organization benefits the community, benefits people, how it makes a difference, with an eye towards making people smile. Now, on one side of my mouth, I'm going to say it's really easy to tell a story. On the other side of my mouth, I'm going to say it's really hard to tell a compelling and brief story. The author Mark Twain once wrote, I would tell a shorter story, but I didn't have much time, so I wrote a long story. It takes time to condense and dense and dense, but if you write a long story, nobody's going to read it, or very few people will read it. So brief but compelling storytelling that makes me smile. That's like, oh my God, I love that story. What a great organization. Let me write them a check. Let me get my credit card and send them some money because I want to continue that story. I want to support that. Number 2, and then we'll take questions later. Online donations. More and more and more people are donating online. Last year, we saw the hugest surge in online donations. And it actually is following the same trajectory as retail donations. So if your organization does not have the ability to collect online donations, you're not in the game. You are not in the game. And especially with this group, since it's an international group and you're everywhere, nobody's going to mail you a check. Very few people will mail you a check. So they'd rather pay online. So figure out how you're going to accept online donations. If you've already got a robust website, that makes it easier. If you don't, then figure out how people can donate to your organization. And it must be easy. If it's a clunky or too many steps to donate, people will pass you by. But right now, in the world we're living in, it's getting more and more and more. The number one preference, it's not number one, a high preference for donating is via online giving. So you figure out that channel. That's probably going to be your hardest part if you're not already there. Number 3, I'm going to argue is your easiest part, but the part that will also move the needle with your organization. And that goes back to social media. Those stories that we talked about in number 1, remember, number 1, storytelling, share those stories on social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook. You decide, you pick your medium, maybe all of them, maybe one of them, but share those stories. Be generous with those hashtags because you want it to go as far as you want to. What you really want is for it to go viral. That's what you really want. It may not go viral, but as many stories as you have, post them because social media works. There have been a couple of organizations where social media is how they make their money via social media. So when y'all get a chance, check out the organization Playing for Change. And it's playingforchange.org, PLAYINGFOR change.org. Right now, they're a big organization. I think they're about $2 million now. But when they started, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, they started only on YouTube. Only on YouTube. They put up videos. And all of their revenue came in from people watching their videos and sending them money. So they're an organization that focuses on music bringing the world together. They're an international organization. And I probably said that wrong. They would say, that's not our mission. It's broader than that, whatever. They have great music videos of kids, for the most part, and adults singing in different parts of the world. They're playing, as in music, for change. They want to change the world, but they also want to get change. And their first year, I think they got $200,000, $300,000 from people watching their videos, loving them, and sending them money. That's the power of social media. Number 4, tell more stories. If I watch your videos and I like it, I want more. If you get 2, that's great, but I've already watched the 2, so I'm done. But you want to engage me. One of the biggest frustrations that nonprofit leaders have is getting a consistent flow of revenue. Because the one and done, I'll write you a check, but then I'm never going to give you money again. That's nice, but it hurts. So you want folks to continually to support your organization. Tell more stories. So as you gather your stories, don't give them all at once. Okay, I've got 50 stories. Yeah, don't tell me all 50 stories at once because I want to see more. Tell me 3, tell me 5. And then maybe next month, tell me a few more. And then next month, engage your donors because now you're getting donors. You're getting an audience. And most important, you want to build an audience. Build your audience via social media. And then the 5th one, this is going to take some time and it's going to be frustrating, is research. Research what organizations care about something about what you do. Meaning, do they care about your geography? Oh, you're in Essex, and our foundation cares about Essex. Oh, you're in Accra. Our company cares about who cares about you? Because as nonprofit leaders start to research and expand what organizations might support them, quite often they make the mistake of saying, oh, United Airlines is a big company and they give out money. Let's reach out to them to see if they'll fund us. Why? Just because they're big and they give out money, why do they care about you? Now that I'm doing research, looking online about what they care about animal rights and cancer. Now, I just made that up. I don't know what they care about, but they definitely care about something. So if they care about cancer research and animal rights, why would they want to talk to the World Federation of Youth Clubs? Do you do animal rights? Do you do cancer care? Why are you calling us? And then you're going to get your feelings hurt because I hung up on you. So do your research to find out who cares about you. And typically foundations and corporations care about A, geography. So if they have no business, and I do mean that business, no business where you are, then they don't care about you. They're never going to say we don't care about you, but they don't care about you. And they have limited resources. It may sound like, oh, they got a ton of money. No, it's limited. So they're going to focus their resources where they have business. Secondly, they care about causes. And every foundation And most corporations will tell you which causes they care about. If they care about youth, yay, yay. But if they don't mention youth and they care about, cancer, they care about animals, they care about saving the planet, they care about clean water. If it's not what your organization does, you are not going to be competitive. So do the research. And then once you do the research, then dive deep into the organization to say, we do exactly what you like to support, what you care about. Please support our organization. Here's some stories from our organization. Because they all have a social media page, every one of them. So then send them a link to some of your videos so they can see your story. So those are my 5 steps. Folks can poke holes into them. I encourage Jose to say, yeah, but step number 3 is harder than you make it sound, or that didn't work for my organization back in the day. Open to Mark, what you have to think about
So
those 5 easy steps.
Those 5 easy steps. Okay, so let's dig into a couple of those, all right? And then we're going to open it up for questions because I know you guys are really chomping at the bit to ask Bernard some questions. So, but let me get started. But let's start with storytelling first, okay? Because that often is like, oh, storytelling, that's easy. We're out there, we're doing our work, and what's our 2-minute elevator pitch and all that stuff. But you need compelling content, right? You need videos, you need imageries, you need things that are going to provide or provoke, I should say, people to want to support your organization. What are some of the things that you would say to the folks who are on this call? When I'm talking about storytelling content, I'm looking for videos of transformation. I'm looking at videos of programs. I'm looking at videos of what is it when we talk about storytelling do we want to capture, encourage the folks to capture? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yep. And then I'm going to go back to brief, because if it's a 5-minute video, 6-minute video, if it's more than 5 or 6 minutes, you lost me.
Yeah. I agree.
Unfortunately, that's true. I mean, go on YouTube and look for short inspirational videos. Right. Most are 2 to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And maybe that's your guide to see some videos that move you. So the key, of course, is you also want people to feel good. Mm-hmm. There are some people who would disagree with me and say, no, we get more money when we show, how dire the situation is. Right. And here's the horrible situation. Your money, your support will help change this. Right. That may be true that some organizations, but I personally loathe those videos. I loathe those videos of, here are these poor children suffering in fill in the blank because of the fill in the blank disaster or because of this. If you don't help, they're just not going to make it. Oh, those make me mad. They make me mad. On the flip side, I like videos of, here are some happy, healthy kids who have a beautiful future ahead of them because we're able to give them X, Y, and Z in support. And that's because you support our mission. Thank you for supporting our mission to make the world a better place. But what we want is, what you really want is a compelling story of, this is Maria, who's a volunteer with World Federation, and she volunteers because she loves to help her community, and she's going to do this, and here's Maria's story. And Maria says, oh, I love this because will you support the work we do? Oh, yeah, I want to support that. I want to support that. And I specifically told that one because it's a story of a volunteer. It's not a story of someone who benefits. Is that a question?
Do we have a question?
No.
Okay, no, maybe not. Okay, thank you for that, Bernard. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, I want you to put on your target hat, okay? Or put on your target vest, your hat, your vest, whatever target gear you need to put on. So you talked about, in terms of research, I would argue that yes, the research is important because you need to know as a seeker of funds whose door you're knocking on, right? So you got to know that. But then there's an opportunity here to think about, okay, well, when I get through the door, what do I need to be successful? And so that storytelling you talked about earlier is super important. But what about information data, right? That complements the qualitative and the quantitative, right? Marrying those two things together in order to, once you get in the door and you've identified, oh, there's alignment, this organization is interested in providing support to youth organizations. Great, perfect, we're aligned. I've done my research. Now I'm here. What do I need to show? Am I talking stories? Am I talking data? Am I talking both? What's the thing that moves those folks to start writing checks?
So great question. What moves them to write the check? And wearing my target hat / my corporate business hat is different than wearing my foundation hat. So I'm going to give you two answers.
Okay.
Because they're very different answers. So wearing my business hat, my target hat, quite often, what you want to approach them with is a deal, not an appeal, because the business of business is business. And in most cases, businesses don't give money to nonprofit organizations because we want to make the world a better place. So you do great work. So here's some money to make the world a better place. God bless you. Here's some money. Bye. That rarely happens with business. Whether they say it or not, what they're thinking is, how might us giving them some money help our business? Now, it could be from the sense of, we really need to have a stronger marketing and PR presence in Essex. So by doing that, we're going to support this organization in Essex, and we're going to market the hell out of this. We're going to tell people, yes, we support the youth of Essex by supporting the Word of Father. Here's what we do, and here's a video of their work that we support. That's a business decision. Or it could be, our employees are looking for more opportunities in Accra to be engaged. They want to support. We've got some morale is not great. We want to boost the morale of our employees in Accra. Let's do a volunteer event. Oh, World Federation is having a big soccer meet, and we're going to have our employees volunteer at that soccer meet, because there'll be a lot of people there. We'll put them in t-shirts with our jerseys on them. We'll get them out there. Everyone will see that we support the community, and it'll give our teams chance to have fun together with the local organization. That's a business decision. So you want to show them how you can support their business, which means you have to do research. What do they care about? So do I want to help support their employee engagement? You don't need to know that there's poor morale, because you'll never know that. They're not going to tell you that unless it's in the news. And if it's in the news, it's too late. It's just, we have a great opportunity to engage your employees to come out and volunteer and help us at our fill in the blank. We want to engage your business. We want to leverage your brand here. If you know of a company that's going to be new in your area, they're coming in, they're opening up a factory, they're opening up operations, seize that opportunity. They're new in the community. You want to welcome them to the community. You want to say, welcome, we're glad you're coming. We're an organization, we work here, and we would love to have you join us in the work we do with youth. Most companies would love that opportunity. You're knocking on their door to welcome them. They will write you a check or give you a credit card number. Yeah. Foundations are very different. A foundation, when you approach them, it's literally how you can be a poster child, and I do mean that literally, for their mission, because the foundations exists to support communities. Corporations do not exist to support communities. Foundations do. So the foundation exists to do, let's say the foundation says one of our top priorities is to help youth succeed and grow to their full potential. That's our mission. And they're doing business in your community, they're doing business in Mexico City, then you say, you know what? Let us be your signature poster child to help bring your mission to life in Mexico City, because this is what we do. That's the approach you want to take with a foundation.
Great. All right, I think let's check in, Dawn. I think we have a couple of questions, right?
I do have some questions here. Let's see. We have a question from Jose, the wonderful Jose Cruz, who is
Make it easy. Make it an easy question.
It says, given how hard our affiliate members work at what they do, they have some great stories and continuously use social media to present that stories. But what else can they do, especially at an international level? So for US based orgs, that's kind of easier, but on an international, how else would you engage businesses? So I'm guessing he means, if I'm in Colombia, if I'm in Zimbabwe, if I'm in wherever, how can I really get that story kind of farther out there, as my guess?
Yep. My suggestion, and that's not easy. So let me just be honest and upfront about that. Engaging businesses, let me talk about businesses anyway. So quite often, one of the frustrating pain points that nonprofits have is they assume the money is in business, is in corporations. Because corporations are big, corporations make a ton of money, and that's where the money is. It's not. It's not. So if you were a strategist and you were a strategist broadly and you said, I'm working with a nonprofit organization and we're going to do a major campaign for funds, where do we start? If you were a strategist, the last place you would go would be corporations. The first place you would go would be government. The second place you would go would be individuals. The third place you would go would be foundations. The fourth place you would go would be planned giving, which is individuals. And then the fifth place you go are corporations. Why? Because the business of business is business. And if you look worldwide and at the United States also, businesses give less than 1% of their revenue to support nonprofit organizations. Less than 1%. It's a tiny bit. When you look at the total pool of money that goes to nonprofit organizations, less than 5% of the total pool, if you look at a pie, less than 5% of that pie comes from businesses. Over 80% of funding comes from individuals. People are who support nonprofit organizations the most. People. So that said, if you've got your eye on corporations, if you really say, but I want to go after corporations, there's an old joke that says, why do people rob banks? The answer is because that's where the money is. So if you think that you really want to go after corporations, then you've got to do your research to see what corporations care about you. And it's highly competitive. How does an organization in Colombia find a corporation to fund them? First of all, find a corporation who cares about Colombia. Find a corporation who talks about Colombia. And ideally the city where you're working. Then if it's a big corporation and if it's a global corporation, it's big, follow their social media, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, whatever their social media is, follow it. And then once you've followed it for a while and understand what they're talking about, what they're doing, insert at them, hashtag them, your video, your little 2-minute video of the work that you're doing. And you tell them, hey, Columbia Corporation, we're loving the work you do here in our community. We're proud to work in Columbia alongside you, and put your video in. It will be seen. Now, that doesn't mean they're automatically going to write you some money, but your biggest challenge right now is they don't know you exist. So if they don't know you exist, they don't care. So you get in front of their face. You're basically trying to nurture a relationship. So if I want to get in front, if I want Jose Cruz to see me, I can't just sit here in the dark in the shadows and hope that eventually Jose Cruz notices me waving at him. I got to get in Jose's face. That's how you get the corporation to notice you. Again, it's not going to guarantee they're going to give you any money at all, but at least they'll know. And you can't do a one and done. You can't do it once and think that they're going to miss the one. You have to be repetitive with it. And again, it's got to be a compelling story or nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But can we shift to the 80%? We talked about the 5, right? Yep. So that's at the bottom of the list.
Yep.
So let's talk about the 80, right? Because, you hear that all the time. Target individuals, target individuals. In your work with many of these organizations through new strategies, what are some of the things that you're seeing and hearing successful organizations going after that 80%, going after those individuals? What's working?
What's working? So what's working are multiple consistent giving works. Okay. Meaning when individuals truly love an organization and the organization encourages them, people give consistently, whether it's every year. So I'm going to give you $500 every year. I'm going to give you $100 every year. I'm going to give you $1,000 every year. I'm going to give you $20, whatever the person is. Or even better, they give you monthly. Every month, I'm going to give you $20 because it's a faith-based organization and I'm tithing. I'm going to give you $50 a month because I love the work that you do and you convince me that this helps. That works really well for organizations. Mm-hmm. here in the US, the public media, what do you call it? NPR, National Public
Yeah,
Radio,
right.
and all of those, they work hard on their campaign to not get you to give a one-time gift of $100. They ask you to give a monthly gift of $10, because every data point shows if you can convince somebody to give to you monthly, odds are they won't stop, ever. And at that point, they're engaged with the organization that they may leave you your house. They may put you in your planning, in their estate planning. Of course, faith-based organizations have done a really good, whether they be churches or synagogues or religious facilities, or just a nonprofit organization that's faith-based, have really tapped into getting donors to monthly donate. That works very, very well. And of course, that's included in the 8% because it's in the 80% because it's an individual.
Right.
It works very, very well. So that's other thing. But no one starts, very few people start at an ongoing, they have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell organizations. People are like, well, how do I get people to give monthly? Well, first you got to get them to give. So once you get them to give, then you get them to get comfortable with it. It's like dating almost. It's, you have to start somewhere. Let's just have coffee and see where it goes from there.
It goes from there. So we got a question from Glenn, clarification question on that 80%. Is the individual percent of givers at 80%, which you and I know that's usually the Chronicle of Philanthropy will pull out that a report.
Once a year.
Once a year, there's a big pie and blah, blah, blah. And part of that 80%, those individuals are faith-based giving contributions to churches.
Oh, yeah.
A big part of that. So Glenn, that's a good question. I think it's important to note to the folks that are on the call, a lot of that money that's captured in that 80% of individual giving is giving to church organizations by individuals. So
that is very true. Yep.
Dawn, any other questions in the?
Can I interrupt on that just a second?
Sure.
To remind people, many nonprofit leaders, and Jose will remember this conversation that we had. Many nonprofit leaders say, yeah, but the faith-based, that's different. So we're a nonprofit. No, it's not different, because you're asking Bernard to support your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernard already gives $1,000 a year to my faith-based organization that you're discounting because it's faith-based. But I only have the resources to give $1,500 a year.
Right.
So don't discount where I'm already giving, because I only have a limited amount of resources.
Right.
So you want, as you build your strategy, you want your individual givings to have you be a preferred nonprofit. So right now, my church is my preferred nonprofit. You may be able to bump them out to not be preferred, so you become my preferred. You may have that opportunity. So then they get $200 a year and you get $1,000 a year. But as you think about you building your strategy, because nobody automatically is your preferred. Nobody just out of the gate. Again, going back to dating, you've got to have coffee first. You got to chat. You've got to get to know each other. Okay, I really love this nonprofit organization. Now that I've got to know them, I'm going to make them my preferred. And people don't even think that in their brain. Who is your preferred nonprofit? What? But you want folks to eventually say, I love this organization. That's your premier donors. The vast majority aren't going to be premiers. You just want to avoid the one and done. But one and done is better than nothing.
That's true. That is true. Dawn, did you have
I have a raised hand here, so I've asked to unmute. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so one of my questions is that I heard Bernard talk about campaigning your organization, right? But there's so many organizations, that nonprofit organizations that work and operate and on so many different levels. But the question is, there's so many that there's so much pull out there. How do you distinguish yourself, and how do you make yourself noticeable? That even though the campaigning is, all the other organizations are doing the same campaign, working towards the same target groups, but how can you make yourself distinguish from that group? And there's so many organizations that it makes a lot of organizations, how can you say, non-believable.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They don't gain your trust as much as other groups. And even if that organization has gained your trust, they don't fulfill on that obligations that they have said that they will do. So that's one of the difficulties that we're facing here in Mongolia right now, that there's over 300 organizations in a small community, but then around 150, 200 are just operating on their own benefit, just for the operation's sake, just to give salary to their employees, not for the actual faith, not for the actual goals, not for the community. So I think the faith is losing a little bit when it comes to organizations, NGOs, that is just coming out of nowhere. So what kind of tactics should we use just to make yourself distinguish from that group and make yourself noticeable and believable?
I love that question. So Maral Erdine, is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, Maral.
Maral. That is a universal concern. I know you mentioned your community, but that's universal concern. It's real. It's very real. Here in the United States, there are 1.8 million nonprofit organizations. 1.8 million. There are 200, on average, 200 new nonprofit organizations created every day. There are too many. That's just a fact. So the biggest challenge I tell organizations is you have to, number one, differentiate yourself. Number two, you have to tell your story, and you have to tell your story in a compelling way. That's how you differentiate yourself. That's how. And then you need to, once you do that, target who you're trying to reach, who you're trying to talk to, because you can't talk to the world unless you have a huge marketing and communications budget, or you're super clever on social media with TikTok, which is less than 1% of organizations and people. You can't talk to the world because the world's not going to see you. So what is your corner? What is your niche? Who do you want to communicate with? And it actually, for revenue, it may not be your community. So I happen to, a dear friend of mine works for a nonprofit organization in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And their revenue generation is not focused on anybody in the country of Haiti. None. None of their revenue comes from any organization in Haiti, not the Haiti government, not the Haiti individuals. None of their money comes from Haiti. It comes from outside of the country. And that's by design. So I'm not saying that's what your strategy or other folks should be, but look for you. And they're highly focused on the faith-based community. They're actually not a faith-based organization, but they're focusing on the faith-based community. So they're going after organizations to fund the work that they do. They've done the research to find out which of these groups, whether they be social groups, because there are social groups, and that means individuals, whether they be congregations, to support their organization. And they're building their brand. I shouldn't say building their brand to be attractive to those organizations so that they can get the revenue. You have to build your brand. Building a brand does not happen overnight. Never happens overnight, whether it's a corporation or an individual or a nonprofit organization. So slowly but surely and consistently build your brand. Right now, I would argue the best way of building your brand is via social media, because A, it's free, and B, it's wide. Everybody can see it. I don't care where they are. They can see you via social media. I don't know if that helped them around, but that's what I got.
Bernard, I was thinking about Morale's question about, in essence, credibility, right? Yep. This is a credibility question in the sector, right? So people are skeptical of the organizations and the work that they're doing. And I would think that one of the ways to tackle that might be, obviously you can carry your water as an organization and spread the news about the good work that you're doing. But boy, isn't it really powerful when others are talking about the great work that you're doing. That
Always
you
better.
Built advocates and surrogates who are out there touting the mission and the work. And now you're hearing from other people, not just the organization themselves, as a way to drive that address that credibility question that Morale posed to us. So just to put that out there as one of the areas that I think would be helpful.
I love that, Mark. Whenever you can get somebody else, a non-vested member, to tell your story, it goes 10 times further. And for those of you who live in an area, and this is not everybody, this is not most, where there are tourists, that's money.
Right.
So if there are tourists coming to your community, and especially if there are tour groups or whatever, Get on their radar. Let them know that you exist, because quite often tourists want to leave something behind. And let that, what they leave behind is a gift to your organization. So just keep that in mind as a potential possibility.
Great. So I think, Dawn, we have time for one more question.
I do. I have a question from Stephen.
We're having so much fun here. Okay.
I know. All right. I think, Bernard, we could keep you all day.
Right.
We have a question from Stephen in Ghana. In reaching out to the government, how do we deal with issues of politics, since that's one of the obstacles in fundraising from the government? I think that, we have got a broad range of affiliate members here with a broad range of political differences.
So that's a great question, and it's a hard question. I'm not going to give you an answer that you're going to like. Government funding is critically important to many, if not most organizations, and it gives me hives. Government funding gives me hives because I don't care what country you're in, it's wrought with challenges. I would argue that government funding is one of the biggest pain points for most nonprofit leaders. And in many cases, it's the most fruitful as far as bringing money into the door, but it's painful. In the US, it's painful because the reporting, usually there's quarterly reporting that you have to do. The paperwork, as I tell nonprofits, there's a phrase that we use, and this is the juice worth the squeeze, meaning some fruit is just way too much work to get the juice out of it. So just leave it alone. Sometimes the government funding is not worth the squeeze. You're going to get $50,000 for them, but you have to do $75,000 worth of reporting. So don't do it. Now, if it's a $5 million grant, maybe that's a different story. Yeah. Every country has its own issues. Sometimes issues are personal, they're relationships. Sometimes it's what they're doing. So I'm not giving you a good answer because I don't have a good answer, other than government funding is fraught with challenges, but can be rewarding. Mark or Jose, actually, you used to get a lot of government funding. What's your granted, it's
I would say your organization should be built to be able to receive those funds and meet the compliance rigor for reporting as you've outlined, Bernard. And I think organizations need to make sure that they're having an internal conversation, an honest conversation about their ability to meet the demands of the funding when you're going out and targeting government dollars. And if you can, great, that's fantastic. But the organization needs to understand that there are going to be strings attached in terms of receiving those funds. And so you just need to be prepared and address those accordingly. So
not all money is good money.
Not all money is good money. So it looks like, Bernard, maybe I have like 1 or 2 minutes quickly. We talked about like the whole idea of this session is around the mindset, right? How do you, from a culture standpoint in your organization, in any one of these organizations, is there a mindset that you see in your work that, those organizations really get it? They got the board and the staff and they're aligned and they're thinking about revenue generation in creative ways and targeting organizations and opportunities effectively to increase the probability of success because they're positioned to achieve results there. Is there a mindset that you need to have in this work that some organization can embrace and adopt in order to be successful in revenue generation?
I love mindsets. So I'm going to give a roundabout answer. Okay. There's a mindset that really frustrates me, and there's a mindset that I absolutely love and do everything I can to support. So the one that frustrates me are the nonprofit leaders, and there's a lot of them out there who say, we do good work, so people should just give us money.
Right.
We do good work, so people should just give us money. Corporations, foundations, government, just give us the money and get out of the way and let us do our work. That's a dangerous mindset. The assumption is that you do good work, but why give you money? There's a lot of organizations doing good work. So to just say we do good work, give us money, that's dangerous and it's tricky and it's frustrating. The mindset that I love is we do good work and we're going to tell our story to anybody who will hear it and listen to it and see it. Right. So let me show you. Let me not just write a report that shows 8% of our kids, 90% graduation rate, 20, that's boring. That didn't move me. That didn't get me to do anything. That numbers report, show me. Show me and engage me, and you have me. So the mindset of showing, demonstrating, telling your story is what it works. There is no question about it. It works. So that's the mindset I really would love people to, oh, we have to tell our story. We have to show people what we are doing in a way that they are able to receive this story.
And on that note, we're going to close this month's webcast. So can you guys just join me in thanking Mr. Bernard, and I'm saying Mr. Bernard Boudreaux.
Which you have never called me Mr. in your life.
Sir Bernard. So thank you, Bernard. Thank you for your insight and your time. We really appreciate you joining us, whether it's evening time or lunchtime or morning time, wherever you are in the world. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to hand it off to Dawn to maybe have a few kind of announcements to sort of take us home.
Sure.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you are doing, everybody. Thank you. I'll shut up.
Thank you so much, Bernard. This has been a wonderful conversation. I just wanted to remind everybody, you'll get a follow-up email from this. It'll give you a survey just asking about your thoughts on this session and how we can continue to improve sessions next year. You'll also get a link to the video recording of this session so that you can watch it again, share it with other colleagues, etc. We have the date for our next webcast, which is December 21st. That's going to be kind of a year-end celebration. And I also just wanted to note the dates. Hopefully you saw that the dates of our annual conference have been announced. That's March 1st through 3rd. So registration for that will begin next month. So be sure to check your email inboxes for that information. So well, that's it, Mark, for me.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Bernard. And thank you, everyone, for taking time today with your busy schedules to join us for the webcast. And you have a wonderful day and wherever you are in the world. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.